Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
We are Hebrews. We are the people of Yahuwah Zara'o, and on this Shabbat you are participating in We the Truth broadcast. We the people of the book broadcast, declaring the truth of the Besorah, sharing Yahusha HaMashiach's Besorah, his Torah, with his people. Believing by Emunah that Yahuwah by his word is waking them up, quickening them, making them alive by his Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah, 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 I give you praise. On this your Shabbat, I give you praise. On this your Shabbat, I give you praise. I give you praise, for you're worthy of praise. Yahuwah, I'm asking you to take the reins of my lips, the reins of my tongue on this Shabbat. And I'm asking you to lead me and guide me, Yahuwah, to speak through me. Allow the words that I speak to be the oracles of Yahuwah Aruah and Yahusha HaMashiach, the Torah of truth. Yahuwah calls me not to injure a one. Yahuwah, not to cause anyone to stumble. Yahuwah, not to cause anyone to turn away from the Besorah of truth. Yahuwah, I can't do this without you. I can't speak a Torah without you. I can't speak a word without you. Yahuwah, I refuse to serve without the Ruach HaKodesh leading me. Guiding me into all truth. Yahuwah, I must receive, I must move, I must walk in the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah, Dawid said to you, take not your Ruach HaKodesh away from him. Yahuwah, take not your Ruach away from me. Please, Yahuwah, that I may always walk in the Torah, walk in obedience, obeying your word. Yahuwah, I am a Hebrew, I'm a child of you, I am a son. Yahuwah, I am a son, and my brother, Yahusha HaMashiach, redeemed me of the tribe of Yehuda. Yahuwah, I give you praise. Yahuwah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Ruach, I submit to you. Spirit of Yahuwah and Yahusha, I submit to you. And yield my body as an instrument of Yahuwah. And my body is an instrument of Yahuwah. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. In the name of Yahushua. Listen. Kurabasa. Do you understand the blessings that come with being a Hebrew? Now Yahuwah is good because he still made provisions for the non-Hebrews. For the Gentiles that are grafted in, the Gentiles that can get in. Yahuwah just wants us to return and walk in obedience, right? We have a covenant that has been renewed. We have a track record. We understand what not to do now. All we have to do is walk in obedience to the commandments. Receive Yahusha HaMashiach's atonement for our sins. We're Hebrews. Man of Yah, woman of Yah. Crying after Torah. Yahuwah, I need your commandments. I need your Torah. I need your Besorah of truth. Yahuwah, cause me to understand and discern your Torah of truth by your Ruach HaKodesh. For Yahusha said it would lead me and guide me into our truth, causing all things to come to my remembrance, whatsoever he has spoken unto me by his Besorah. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I receive it, I receive it, I receive it by Emunah. I receive it by Emunah. We have to remember who we are. We got to remember who we are. from Hebrews to Igbo. Come on, to Negroes. Listen. Yahuwah, I thank you for your Basor truth. Listen, I got some truth courtesy of John J. Tatum. The title of the song is We Are Hebrews. I don't own the rights to this music. Listen, I am here to wake up Jacob. I am here to wake up Yaakov, Yahuda. I am here to wake up Yisrael. Return to Yahuwah. Return to the Torah. Return to the commandments. Return to the Yah statutes, his laws. In obedience. That's what Yahusha said to do. On this Shabbat, listen. You need to begin to make a decision. You need to make a decision. You need to recognize that this thing is real. And that the seal to your Yeshua is in the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. You're Hebrews. You have to do it the way that Yahusha HaMashiach said. You have to do it the way that we have been mandated to do it. We must keep his laws, statutes, and commandments throughout our generations. Throughout our generations. Yahusha never nullified it. Yahusha didn't do away with it. These are laws and statutes and commandments. They're perfect and righteous, and we are to keep them. And the thing is, now we can, because the Ruach HaKodesh has given us the capacity to do so. If you've received the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, count yourself blessed. Walk in the supernatural guidance, if you will, of the Ruach HaKodesh. Walk in the supernatural revelation of the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen, you are privileged. You are part of the beloved because of this. You are in the family of Yahuwah. You are the family of Yahuwah. He's put his Ruach in you. He's put his spirit in you. Let's go in. We left off at YOCHANON, the 15th chapter, having completed the 14th chapter. Listen. And I love the 14th chapter because Yahusha drives in the idea of first and foremost that he is the only way to Yahuwah. He is the only way. There is no other way to get to Yahuwah. He's been saying the same thing. He has said, I am the chief shepherd, right? He says, I go in at the door, right? If you want to come in, you must go through the door, right? Yahusha is the way, the truth, and the life. The way is obedience to Torah. The way is obedience to the Besorah, the good news, right? The Torah is the teachings of Yahuwah and the teachings of Yahusha. He taught the Torah. He taught his disciples and all those who would hear as he stood up and preached and taught in the synagogue and in the temples that he was in, the Torah, the Besorah, the way. And you know what, as Yahudim, man, we understand. We understood our relationship. No, we got away from our relationship, but we understand because we knew by heritage that there were certain things that Yahuwah had commanded us to do, and our ancestors failed to do them. We understood. Our people understood. They just didn't keep it. The 14th chapter. Yahusha drives home. He is the way. To his disciples, because he's talking to his disciples. He is the way. The disciples discouraged because Yahusha says that he's got to go away. And he's going to the Father, right? And then, you had Philip and Thomas, and Philip was like, well, Yahusha said, if you see me, you've seen the Father. Philip said, show us the Father. Yahusha says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. What, you don't recognize me and the Father as one? Didn't I ask you, didn't I say to you, believe? Didn't he say, he said to them, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in Yahuwah. Believe in me. You believe in Yahuwah, right, Philip? You believe in Yahuwah, then believe in me. Well, show me Yahuwah, and I'll be satisfied. I can't believe that you would say that, Thomas. Been with you all this time for this extended period, and that you got the audacity, the nerve. Yahusha had a ruach of patience. He had the spirit of patience, right? Because Philip was his disciple. Yahuwah sent him to him. Yeah, Philip was Yahuwah's disciple, right? Show us the Father. We'll be satisfied. Now, you know, ain't no man have ever seen the Father and lived, except the Son, Yahusha. For me to reveal to you the Father would be your death, because you ain't prepared to return to him. You ain't in a condition to even receive his presence. I'm the only one that can. Right now, in this tabernacle, because I have the fullness of you, and I have never sinned. There's never been a sin that I've committed, because I've always done what my Father says. See, I can see him right now. I can stand before his presence, but you can't. You can't see the Father. You would be consumed. You haven't even been purged by my blood that I have yet to sprinkle on the altar in the Shamayim. Can't stand to see the Father. Moshe couldn't stand to see him. He had to look at his hind parts as he passed by. Show us the Father. Yahusha had to explain to him that he and the Father are one. And the only people that are going to understand this are those that love him and keep his commandments. Right? The world can't keep his word. Don't love him because they don't keep his commandments. They don't keep his word. And if you love Yahusha and keep Yahusha's commandments, then the Father loves you because you obey Yahusha. If you don't obey Yahusha and keep Yahusha's word, then the Father don't love you. Hence, he don't love everybody. So, Yahusha tells them, listen, I know you're disquieted in your Ruach. I know you're struggling, right, with what I'm saying. But listen, I'm going to send you the Ruach HaKodesh. The Father's going to send you the Ruach HaKodesh. We're going to send you the Ruach HaKodesh. The Father's going to be in you. I'm going to be in you. Right now, I'm with you, but I'm going to be in you by the Ruach HaKodesh, just like the Father is in me by the Ruach HaKodesh. You see, it's important. You got to understand that the Ruach HaKodesh is essential. YOCHANON testified to it. YOCHANON said that I've come to baptize with water, but the one that cometh after me, in whose shoes I'm not worthy to unlatch. And so he's going to baptize you with the Ruach HaKodesh. And see, the Ruach HaKodesh is going to signify that Yahuwah in Yahusha is dwelling in your temple. Right? It's going to be the earnest of your inheritance. Right? It's going to be what Yahuwah quickens, make alive. It's going to be what he causes the change, resurrection to experience the eternal life. But he going to give it to you in a down payment. You got to have this. Because it's going to lead you and guide you into all truth. Without it, you ain't going to know what to do. Right? Yeah. Without it, you're going to go back to fishing. Oh, yeah. You're going to go back to what you did. What you used to do. That's why you can tell people who fall away because they never had the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't taste of this goodness. Paul said they tasted of the
the goodness of the Ruach HaKodesh, and then I go back into sin. Crucify Christ afresh. You can't do that. Renewing again old dead works. Listen, it's impossible. It's impossible. So, if you do go back, you will never receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, you might have made a confession unto salvation, but you never received the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Because there will be many people in that day going to say, Yahuwah, didn't I do this and didn't I do that? I confess Yahusha. I believed in Yahusha. I don't know you. I never occupied your house. Yeah. I never lived in your tabernacle. Right? I never dwelled me and the Father in you. I don't know you. The Ruach HaKodesh is the fulfillment of the Father and the Son in you, giving you life, quickening you. The world can't receive it because they don't believe in Yahusha. They don't believe in Yahuwah. So Yahusha said, I'm going to send you this comforter, this Ruach HaKodesh. And you know, when I'm going to pray the Father and he going to send him. You know, because sometimes he says he going to send him. And the Father's going to send him. But see, listen, there's no separation or division in the Father and the Son. They work synergistically. They work together. They're not at odds. They're not separate. Oh, it's me. It's the Father. It's the mystery of oneness. Something that we can't understand without the Ruach HaKodesh. And then even with the Ruach HaKodesh, it's Emunah. It's Emunah. It's the revelation of the truth. And we receive the truth by Emunah because that's what we do. Because we have the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, he shall teach you all things. Listen, you think you learned some stuff? You just wait until you receive the gift from the Father, the Ruach HaKodesh. That Ruach is going to lead you and guide you into truth. Listen, he shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have spoken. Torah. Woo! Yahusha. Everything. Everything that's in the book. Everything. Everything that's in the CEPHER. Everything. Everything. We need the Ruach HaKodesh. Is going to cause to our remembrance. He's going to cause us to remember those things which were spoken. Those things which were said by the Ruach, by the Besorah, the Torah. Yahusha said, peace I live with you in John 14:27. He says, I don't give you, he says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Right? Not as the world gives. Because the world doesn't know how to give peace. Peace in the world is a cessation of war. Right? I think the word is succession. No, peace is achieved when there's no war. Right? But in reality, that's not peace. You can have peace in the midst of the war. Because you know Yahuwah. You're Yahuwah Alua. Right? Because you are his. It's going to give you the strength to make it in the war, through the war. And if he calls you to slay your enemies in the war. Oh, yeah. Yahusha says, my peace is not like the world's. The world says it's at peace when there is no war, right? But that's not peace. My peace is the peace that passes all understanding. You got to get the Ruach HaKodesh to understand it. So, the last thing Yahusha says in that 14th chapter, the 31st verse, he says, but the world may know that I love the Father. That everybody outside of those who believe on me, the world, all those that don't believe on me, is the world. And they're going to know that I love the Father as the Father gave me commandment, even so I give unto you. He said, let's go hence. So, we're moving into the 15th chapter. It's an overview of the 14th chapter. Now, actually 14, 15, 16, and 17. Ooh, I love them. The 15th chapter, Yahusha says this. He says, I am the vine, and my Father is the husbandman, right? So Yahusha is the actual plant source, right, of nutrients, right? And his Father cultivates the ground. He said his Father is the husbandman. That word is
Strong's G 1092. Georgas.
Georgas. Right? The husbandman is the tiller of the soil. Right? So Yahuwah breaks up the ground, right? And he dresses, he prepares, right, the vine, right? So Yahuwah is the dresser of the vine. Yahuwah says, I am the true vine. I am the source of everything that you gonna need. See, because by me, you gonna grow. Listen, by me and the words that I speak, you are going to produce fruit. By the Besorah of truth that you speak, right, it's going to produce good works in you. I am going to be able to see what Yahuwah is doing in you because of your obedience and attachment to the vine. My Father who's tilling the ground, right, sees. Right? He knows what's good and what's profitable because he tends the soil. He monitors the vineyard. He understands what grapes or what leaves need to be plucked off in order for the tree to flourish more in that area. Right? Yahusha says, every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he takes away. Every branch that's in him. It's in him. Yahusha talks to his disciples. He's talking about those who have received the Besorah. Right? Because there are branches in him. He's not talking to the world. He's talking to his disciples. He's talking to those who he has called to perform a purpose, to bring forth fruit from the vine. He's the root. He's the vine. He gets his nourishment from the soil which the Father prepares. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. Every branch that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Fruit. Now, you have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh in order to produce fruit. Listen, you have to receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh in order to produce fruit in Hamashiach. Otherwise, you are valueless. Father takes it away. Ruach HaKodesh gives you the capacity to do good works and to produce fruit. Right? But if you do not have or have not received the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, and you are in Hamashiach, then guess what? You're taken away. Taken away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purges it. Every branch that produces fruit, he purges it. Right? Let's look at that word purge. Right? That word purge in the Greek is
Strong's G 2508. Kathairo.
Katharo.
Kathairo.
Katharo, right? The etymology of that word is
Strong's G 2513. Katharas.
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 It means to clean, to purge, to purify by fire. In a similitude, like a vine cleansed by pruning, so to filter, pruning and so fitted to bear fruit. Right? Yahuwah, because he is the husbandman, right? He cleanses, right? He prunes from useless parts. Prunes, right? The process is that he, by the Ruach HaKodesh, continues to allow that Ruach, that HaKodesh, right, by your act of obedience, to continue to bring forth fruit, right, in the midst of difficulty. Right? Every branch of me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. Every branch in Yahuwah. Every branch that does not have the Ruach HaKodesh gets taken away. Right? Because it's not going to produce any fruit. And every branch by the Ruach HaKodesh that does bring forth fruit, he's going to purge out those little things that are in you, right?
that affect your ability to produce more fruit. See, Yahuwah is concerned about the vineyard's productivity. The Father is concerned about the productivity, right, of those that are attached to Hamashiach. And if you don't have the Ruach HaKodesh, you ain't producing no fruit, so you cut off. See, now this is gonna be hard for some people because some people just don't understand and don't want to grasp broccoli, the significance, the ultimate necessity of the Ruach HaKodesh. They kind of gloss over the fact that, oh yeah, well, you know, after you receive Yahusha, you receive the Ruach HaKodesh. You have the spirit of Yahuwah the Lord. So, you think that the spirit of Yahuwah the Lord, the Ruach HaKodesh, is just going to jump in you? Right? Now, granted, you know, you've started the preparation process, right? You've heard the word of Yahusha, and you've established Emunah on what he says, and have accepted his testimony, his witness, and confessed your sins, right? Right? You've started to walk in obedience, but you just haven't received the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And you're okay with that. You don't need the Ruach HaKodesh. You don't need something that, you know, for the leaders and the elders and the people that are doing the work. No. You're going to be cut off. You have no inheritance without the Ruach HaKodesh, because the Father and the Son in you puts you in the family. The Ruach HaKodesh in you puts you in the family of Yahuwah. And in Yahusha, in the Ruach HaKodesh, you're going to produce fruit. And those things that are in you that you battle with, that Yahuwah has to burn in you, right? Has to purge out of you. Those things, right, are going to cause you to produce more fruit because they are coming off. Because they're not acceptable for Yahuwah. In order for you to produce fruit in Hamashiach. He's talking to the disciples. He's not talking to the world. He's talking to the disciples. He's talking to those who have accepted the Besorah of truth. He's talking to his 12. He purges it so you may produce more. You know, Apostle Paul said, listen, I do more than all of them. I try to go more places. I try to speak to more people. I try to reach everybody I can. I use every opportunity to preach the Besorah of truth to these Gentiles so that they know. Because Yahusha told me to. Delivering the Besorah of truth. Teaching people that Yahuwah has mandated that they receive the Ruach HaKodesh. That's my job. That's why everything that I teach comes back to the Ruach HaKodesh, because that's the message. You need to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. You need to understand the importance of the Ruach HaKodesh. Without it, you will not produce fruit. And without fruit, you will be cut off because you are not alive. The Ruach HaKodesh gives you life.
Ruach, this is the life force of Yahuwah. All right, let's go to verse 3. Now ye are cleansed, right, through the words which I have spoken unto you, right? The words, right? The more of the Torah that you have in you, right? The truth cleanses you, right? The Basora of truth takes, the Ruach HaKodesh of truth takes the Basora of truth and works in you. He said, ye are cleansed through the words which I have spoken unto you. You are cleansed through the words which I have spoken unto you, right? He said, abide in me and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit in of itself. Listen. Remain, continue, and dwell in me by keeping the Basora of truth in the Ruach HaKodesh. Because you can't bring forth no fruit without the Basora of truth in the Ruach HaKodesh. Listen. Did he not say, right? But in John 14:26, but the Comforter, the Ruach HaKodesh, whom the Father will send, right? Will send. In my name he shall teach you all things, right? And bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have said unto you. The Ruach HaKodesh. He says, abide in me and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except ye abide in me, the vine, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. You have to remain, continue, and dwell in me by the Basora and the Ruach HaKodesh. Because the Ruach HaKodesh is the spirit of Yahuwah and Eluah in you. The Ruach HaKodesh is going to lead you and guide you into all truth. The Ruach HaKodesh is going to keep you pruned in the Basora of truth as you read and meditate on the Basora. As you put the Basora of truth, the Torah of Yahuwah first, in you, by the Ruach HaKodesh, you will produce fruit, and at the same time, everything that does not bear fruit is going to be removed. You're going to put it away. You're going to recognize by the Ruach HaKodesh, this thing is not benefiting the kingdom of Eluah. I'm going to put it away. This thing right here is affecting my ability to produce more fruit. I'm getting rid of it. Hear the word of Yahuwah. You must be by the Ruach HaKodesh and the Basora of truth prepared to remove what does not benefit the kingdom, that does not produce fruit. If you ain't, Yahuwah will make you. He will by fire. He said, abide in me and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself. Oh. What did Yahusha say in the 14th chapter?
He says in the 14th chapter and the 10th verse, believe thou not that I am in the Father, right? That I am in the Father and the Father in me. The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwells in me, he doeth the work. Right? Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very works that I do. Right? It's the same thing. The Ruach HaKodesh and the Besorah. Yahusha was the Torah made flesh, the Besorah, spoken word with the Ruach HaKodesh. He produced fruit. The fruit that he produced was his disciples. The disciples needed to produce fruit. If they didn't, then Yahuwah was going to do those things necessary to prune them in order that they could reach their brethren for the purpose of the kingdom of Elohim. He said, verily I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father which is in heaven. Then he says, where he says this, he says, in reference to the Comforter, yet a little while, verse 19 of that 14th chapter, and the world seeth me no more, but ye see me, because I live, ye shall live also. At that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. But he says, he that haveth my commandments, and keepeth them, it is he that loveth me. You are cleansed by the word, by the Besorah of truth. The Torah of truth, right? The Torah of truth, abide in me and I in you. By the Ruach HaKodesh and by the Besorah of truth. Yahusha was. We are to be the Torah. Right? We are to be the Torah with the Ruach HaKodesh like Yahusha was. That's why he wants us to say what he says. That's why he wants us to obey like he obeyed. That's why the Father will prune us in order for us to bring forth more fruit, as long as we remain in Yahusha HaMashiach. As long as we continue to keep the Besorah of truth, to walk in the commandments that keep the Torah of truth. He said, you are cleansed through the words which I have spoken unto you. You are cleansed through the words which I have spoken. Listen, the Torah that I have spoken is cleansed you. Excuse me. The Besorah that I preached and I've declared unto you has cleansed you. Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can ye except ye abide in me. You have to keep the Torah of truth by walking in obedience in you, before you, so that it may cleanse you, right? And by the Ruach HaKodesh empower you to do what Yahusha did. That's abiding in the vine. Yahusha says, I am the vine, ye are the branches. I am your source. The Besorah of truth and the Ruach HaKodesh on the inside of you is going to produce fruit. Right? It's going to produce fruit. Because listen, understand something. In order for you to be in the vine,
you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to understand that. In order for you to be in the vine, you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to be attached to the life force that Yahusha is attached to, and the Father has provided. You have to recognize that the Ruach HaKodesh is your life force. It is what gives you the ability to maintain by the Ruach HaKodesh and walk in the Besorah and produce fruit. Without the Ruach HaKodesh, you can't do nothing. It's why Yahusha told the disciples to tarry and wait for the Ruach HaKodesh, because without it, you ain't going to be able to do nothing. Without it, you ain't going to be able to abide in the vine. You ain't going to be a part of me. You're going to go back to fishing. You're going to go back to collecting taxes. You have to keep Yahusha's Besorah before you. You have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. These things work synergistically. They are one. They function. It's not like functioning with Yahusha apart from the Ruach HaKodesh. It's not having a relationship with Yahuwah without a relationship with Yahusha. It's not possible to have Yahusha without the Ruach HaKodesh. If you abide in me, if you remain, continue, and dwell in me, by keeping my commandments, by obeying my Besorah, and by moving in the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, and in me, he says, and in me. He says, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abides, remains, continues, and dwells in the vine. No more can ye except you abide in me. You gotta maintain your relationship with Yahuwah through obedience in keeping the Ruach HaKodesh. If you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, you have to continue in obedience. That's abiding, walking in obedience to the Besorah of truth in the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. See, because without the Ruach HaKodesh, right, you're going to be walking around saying, show us the Father. Without the Ruach HaKodesh, you're going to be walking around saying, we don't know the way. Listen, Yahusha had been teaching them the Torah for 3 years. Besorah for 3 years. He'd been teaching them and preaching to them the Besorah for 3 years. 3 years. Right? And because they didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh, you know what they said? Show us the Father. Because they didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh, they was like, show us the Father. Thomas said, listen, we don't know the way. Without the Ruach HaKodesh, Yahusha's preaching and teaching. About to give him a lesson on the resurrection. And what was it? Philip said, oh yeah, well we might as well go and die with them. Yeah, that's what happens without the Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, without the Ruach HaKodesh, you won't abide in the vine. Without the Ruach HaKodesh, it is impossible for you to abide in the vine. Without having received the comforter, right, of the Ruach HaKodesh, you are not going to abide in the vine. Something's going to always come first. And eventually, you're going to be cut off. right? Cut off. You know, that's why we called it backsliding. You know, because, you know, you would always wonder why, you know, people with backsliding just go buck wide back out into what? It's because of Ruach HaKodesh. They didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh. They didn't have what was necessary to sustain them. Listen, and I had the Ruach HaKodesh at a young age, and you know what? I maintained. I mean, I had my moments. Listen, I had my moments in the flesh. I had my moments of disobedience. I had my moments, right? I did. But I had the Ruach HaKodesh, and I had the Besorah, the Torah of truth. And I always had my way, found my way. Always, the Ruach always brought me back, right? And Yahuwah, you know, he does things to prune you, purge you, prune you. Yeah. He pruned me with a stroke. Yeah, he did. He used a stroke to prune me. Because he knew that lesson was going to be, that was going to be the one. He's gonna prune you. He pruned me. I struggled, had struggles, right? But you know, I always kept the Besorah first. Listen, you know, my daughters will tell you, right? You know, when I was raising them, right? Because most of the time I was just raising my daughters. It was me and my daughters. And my son, you know, he was just disobedient. He just didn't want to. He's a tough nut to crack. But he ended up living with his mother. Me and his mother, you know, we were separated, and then so we got divorced. The girls lived with me, right? And they'll tell you that every night I had the scriptures playing in the system. I had the scriptures playing throughout the house. Oh yeah, I had it on. Right, because it was important. The Torah was important to me. Right? Still attending the Christian church. But it was about the Besorah. You know. The last church I attended that I really participated in was African Methodist Church. I was done. I don't know why, but I was just done. Because it was like, yeah, it's just done. At the time, it's like, I can't do this. I'm done. I can't do this. This is not going anywhere. These people aren't going anywhere. You know, they've accepted this. And I know there's more than this. The Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh is going to cause you to live. And without it, you're going to be cut off. You are cleansed through the words which I've spoken to. And you know what? This is the thing, right? Yahusha had the Ruach HaKodesh with him, in him, without measure. And even as he ministered the Torah to his disciples, right, he witnessed and understood their cleansing process, right? Because he had all power in the Shamayim and the Rets. He literally was the Ruach HaKodesh before them, right? Because he had it without measure, right? He was the discerner, right? But he had to let them know, listen, you gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. In order to continue to remain, to dwell, you gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. You gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. Gotta have the Ruach. Gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. Gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. Gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. He said, abide in me. Allow the Torah of truth to cause you to abide. Cause the Ruach HaKodesh. Receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Receive the Besorah and receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Because you can't bear fruit without it. You can't bear fruit without it. Disciples could not have decided to go and preach the Besorah. They wouldn't have. I'm telling you, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have preached the Besorah. The disciples, they wouldn't have preached the Besorah. They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have preached the Besorah. They wouldn't have declared the Torah of truth. They wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have done it. The disciples would not have done it. Excuse me. The disciples wouldn't have done it without the Ruach HaKodesh. Peter would have went back to fishing. Even though they seen Yahusha, even though they experienced his Ruach HaKodesh, he breathed on them after his resurrection. Right? If they didn't go and receive the Ruach HaKodesh, the power, right, which they had received because Yahusha blew on them, right? Even in his presence while he was there, right? They understood its functioning at that point. So it became expedient that they follow through. They knew what they needed, and they knew what they had, and having received the Ruach HaKodesh, when he spoke it and breathed on them, he knew. They knew. They knew they needed to go, right? Because they knew what the Ruach HaKodesh represented. The revelation that it brought, the revealing, caused those things that Yahusha had said to come back to them. They weren't tarrying and did like Yahusha said. They were obedient to the Besorah, the Torah of truth that Yahusha had spoken unto them. And because they did, they produced fruit. He said, abide in me and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abides in the vine. No more can ye except you abide in me. Listen. You have to remain in the Besorah of truth with the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't discern the Torah without the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't even rightfully divide the Besorah of truth without the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't. You can't even begin to produce good fruit without the Ruach HaKodesh. Yahusha says, I am the vine and ye are the branches. He that abides, remains, continues, dwells in me, and I in him. Ruach HaKodesh. We remain in him by keeping the Besorah of truth and obedience. He remains in us by the Ruach HaKodesh. He's going to be with us forever. Yahusha and Yahuwah and Yahusha in us. The Ruach HaKodesh is going to be in us forever. He says, I am the vine and ye are the branches. Right? You are the offshoots of me, right? He that abides in me and I in him, he that abides in me. In order to abide in him, you have to obey his commandments. You have to keep his Torah. His Torah has to cleanse you. His Besorah has to cleanse you. You have to be cleansed by the words which he has spoken. They are cleansed by the words that Yahusha had spoken. The words that were Ruach HaKodesh spoken. He says, I am the vine, and ye are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, and without me you can do nothing. Well, I have him. I've confessed with my mouth and believed in my heart, and I have him. Have you received the Ruach HaKodesh since you believed? You know, if it wasn't necessary for them to have received the Ruach HaKodesh, Yahusha would have never told them to get it. If it wasn't necessary for those that were encountered on the way in the book of Acts to receive the Ruach HaKodesh, then he would have never gave it to them. Because we didn't even know we needed the Ruach. But see, this is the thing though, right? If you're called of Yahuwah, right? Yahuwah will make provisions for you to get the total roll. The full meal, right? The whole course, right? Right? Before they had met the apostle, look, they had just had the salad. That was John's baptism. They got some word, which was the meal, right? And then they received the Ruach HaKodesh, which was the dessert. Oh, Yahuwah. Yahusha says, I am divine, verse 5, and ye are the branches, right? He that abides in me, he that abides in me, he that remains, continues, and dwells. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. Look, with the Basora of truth and the Ruach HaKodesh, you're going to be producing some fruit, right? You're going to produce some fruit. Because listen, if you reach one person and that one person reaches 2 people and that person reaches 5 people and the other person reach 6 people, that's fruit off your branch. It's fruit off your branch. Listen, it happens because you abide in the vine. You can't bring forth fruit without abiding in the vine. And again, you have to understand, abiding in the vine is keeping Torah, walking in obedience. And the Ruach HaKodesh, that's required. That's mandated. Right? He says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will and it shall be done unto you. Right? If you abide in me, right? If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you can ask. If you continue in the vine, right? Right? You abide in the vine. You can ask anything. You can ask what you will. And it shall be done unto you. You can ask what you will. If you abide in the vine. If you receive the Ruach HaKodesh. If you walk in obedience to Torah and to the Basora, the word of Yahuwah, you can ask what you will. Listen. You have to establish a relationship with Yahuwah through Yahusha. And you have to have become a part of his by the receiving of the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh to ask anything and get anything. You know, it's funny. People be like, yo, man, can you pray for me? I need such. Yeah. Now, my thought is, right? Do you have a relationship with Yahuwah? Do you want me to agree with you? So you have a relationship with Yahuwah by the Ruach HaKodesh, and you have his Torah in your heart, and you walk in obedience? Yeah, I agree with you. But if you don't, so you just think, right? My Yahuwah Alua, right? Because he has requirements, right? He just ain't some high in the pie sky, come on, get what you want, you know. It's all good for everybody. He don't function like that. He has a method. In order to receive, you have to abide in Yahusha. You have to keep Yahusha's Torah. You have to walk in obedience. And you have to have the Ruach HaKodesh, because you know what? That separates you from the world. That's your inheritance. That gives you the right to ask. You know, the rich young ruler, the rich man who had the son, went to his father and said, you know, hey, Dad, can I get my inheritance? His father said, yeah, you can get it. He had a right to that inheritance, right? But when he took it and squandered it and sinned, right, his father didn't have to give him anything in return, and he knew that. That's why he said, look, if I can go back to my father's house and be a servant, then I'll be better off than I am now, because my servants of my dad's house get well taken care of, right? He was prepared, right, to come back to his father, right, and receive what his father would be willing to give him, because he had already had his inheritance. He squandered it. You have to understand that Yahuwah is not just giving stuff to anybody. He's giving it to sons and daughters, right? You have to understand that when you make a request of Yahuwah, you have to make a request of him in the place, in the position of being an obedient son and daughter with the Ruach HaKodesh, because the Ruach HaKodesh is what makes you a part of the beloved. When you've received the Ruach of truth, the Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, when you have that, then you have Yahuwah and Yahusha in you. Then you're part of the family. You can ask. If you don't, then you can't. You ain't getting it. And you notice, right? This whole asking is for those who abide in the vine. It's not an ask that anybody can ask. You know, people pull out scriptures and say, oh, you know, scripture says, if you abide in me and my word abide, you can ask what you will. I know the word. Or if I just pray the word, then I'm going to get the answer. Right. In order to receive from Yahuwah, you have to abide in the vine. You have to keep his word. You got to keep his covenant. You got to walk in his statutes and commandments. Yeah. In order to be blessed with whatever. And listen, the people who are making requests here are the people who are making requests from a place of rightness. They ain't just randomly asking Yahuwah for stuff. I don't even ask Yahuwah for stuff no more. You know, I don't. I don't ask him for stuff. He knows what I need. And if I walk in obedience and I trust him in his Torah, he's going to give me what I desire. He's going to give me what I need. And you know what, too? There are times that you become overwhelmed, right? And, you know, you start asking Yahuwah, I need this, I need that. I got to have this and I got to have that, right? And I say, Yahuwah, I'm going to ask you only because I know that you will hear me when I pray. I know you hear me when I pray because I keep your commandments. Because I have your Ruach HaKodesh. And I'm not just going to ask for anything. I'm not going to ask for anything. Whatever I ask for is for the benefit of the kingdom. Right? anything that I have or what I can receive, Yahuwah, I need to receive it for the kingdom's sake. He said, listen, if you abide in me, and my word abide in you, ye shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you, right? And it's the same thing that he says over here, right? He says, where is that? He says, but the go away, bro. Okay, let's go up. Let's go. Where's that? Yahusha was talking to his disciples. Okay, look. He says, truly, truly, I say unto you in verse 12, he that believeth on me, right, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go to my Father. Okay, so he's going to his Father, right? Going to his Father. You know what he's doing. He's offering up himself, preparing the way, right, for us to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. As YOCHANON said, he's come to baptize with the Ruach HaKodesh, right? He says, and whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. So whatever you ask in my name, right, after I go to be with the Father, right, and he sends you the Comforter, right? Okay, so let's keep going. He said, if you should ask anything in my name, I will do it, right? Right? I'll do it. He says, if you love me, keep my commandments, right? So you have to keep his commandments, right? And then keeping his commandments, you demonstrate your love for him, right? Right? And then he says, and I will pray the Father, right? And he shall give you a comforter that he may abide with you forever. Now, this comforter we already know is the Ruach HaKodesh, because he says here in the 17th verse, even the Ruach HaKodesh of truth, or the Spirit of truth, right? The Ruach HaKodesh of truth, whom the Father, excuse me, I'm reading fast. Even the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it sees him not, neither knows him, but ye know him, for he dwelleth with you and shall be in you. Right? And because of this comforter, because of this Ruach HaKodesh of truth, right? He's going to lead you and guide you into all truth, right? Right? And because of this, you will be able to do greater works, right? And because of this, whatsoever you ask the Father, he gonna do for you, right? And if you shall ask anything in my name, he gonna do it. Why? Because you keep my commandments, the Basora of truth, the words which I've spoken unto you, right? And you've received the power, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit of truth, which is the Father and me in you. Right? In that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. John 14:20. It's the same message all over again. The Ruach HaKodesh, the Basora of Yahusha HaMashiach, the Torah, and walking in obedience. He says, you bring forth fruit. He said you can't bring forth none without it. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, keep his commandments. If you love me, you keep my commandments. His word, obedience, Torah, the Basora, receiving the Ruach HaKodesh, the Comforter, the gift, leading and guiding you into all truth, calling all things to your remembrance. Whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, you shall have them, because of the Ruach HaKodesh, because of your obedience, because of your keeping the commandments, because of you receiving the word of Yahuwah, Yahusha, because of the Ruach HaKodesh, you will produce fruit. And you can ask anything. A productive fruit-bearing individual can request anything of Yahuwah. And if you ain't got it, you ain't getting it. See, because here is the Father glorified. This is how the Father is glorified. That ye bear much fruit, and ye shall be his disciples. You bear fruit. You bear fruit. You bear much fruit. You're going to be his disciples. You are going to reveal him. His Ruach HaKodesh. Listen. On the day of Pentecost when Peter and the people that were in the upper room were speaking in other tongues by the Ruach HaKodesh, right? And Peter got up to preach. Peter got up to preach, and he preached so hard and so strong that he produced fruit in excess of 3,000 souls. And they produce fruit, and they that produce fruit from them that produce fruit. They that did works as a result of the fruit that Peter produced, they that produced fruit and done works and miracles and everything that they did because they received the Ruach HaKodesh, it's greater works. Because you got more people doing them. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you can ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. For here is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. And listen, too, the asking is connected to your ability to bring forth fruit. Yahuwah, I'm asking you this so that I may bring forth much fruit. I'm asking Yahuwah for a car. A two-seater Spider Boxster. And listen, don't get me wrong, Yahuwah will give you stuff. I'm a witness. Listen, I'm a witness. Yahuwah will give you things. Oh yeah, he'll move, right? But where's your heart? Where's your heart? Where's your heart when concerning these matters? He says here, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. So as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Right? He said, as the Father has loved me, Yahusha, Father demonstrated his love to me. Right? He's given me his Basora. He's put in me his Ruach HaKodesh without measure. I'm going to walk continually in the obedience of Torah, right? He says, if ye keep my commandments, right? Yahusha says, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you, right? Right? He says, now, if you keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love. Which means that Yahusha kept his Father's commandments. Right? As the Father hath loved me, the Father loves me because I keep his Torah. I preach his Basora of truth. I give out his Basora, his Torah. Listen, Yahusha is never going to ask or expect you to do nothing that he has not done himself.
Yahusha's not going to commission you to go out and do anything without having received the Ruach, which he received himself. Right? Now, Yahusha was sinless again when he received the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Yahusha. He didn't have to struggle with the acts of having committed sin. Right? He didn't have to struggle with that. Right? Because he understood him and the Father were one. They were connected. The mystery, he was attached to him. Right? So Yahusha could have the Ruach without measure. Look, he was the son of Elua. Right? But me and you. Can you imagine Yahuwah giving us all the Ruach? We'd be all running around here like little demigods. Go to your head so fast, make your head swim. Before you know it, you doing the work of House of Todd as a little demigod. He said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. You'll walk in obedience. The Father will give you, you will have the Ruach HaKodesh, which will keep you. Right? He said, as the Father have loved me, so have I loved you. Continue ye in my love. Right? He says, if ye keep my commandments. Now, you know, commandments is plural. It's plural. If ye keep my commandments. Now, listen, this is all predicated on the fact that you keep the commandments. If you don't keep the commandments, then this doesn't apply. You can't make a request of a Yahuwah if you don't keep his commandments, right? You can't even receive the Ruach HaKodesh if you don't keep his commandments. You gotta obey his words. You gotta obey his words. You gotta obey the Basora of truth. You gotta receive the Basora of truth and obey it. Walk in it. That's the condition. If it's predicated on keeping the commandments. Ye shall abide in my love. So if you keeping the commandments, you demonstrating your love for me. Right? Obedience is love. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Because without obedience, you sacrifice everything. Without obedience to the Torah, without obedience to Basora, without obedience to keeping the commandments, right? You literally forsake everything. Nothing for you. He said, keep my commandments if you keep my commandments. This all depends on keeping the commandments. You shall abide in my love, even as I have kept, the Father's commandments, and abide in his love. Yahuwah shows mercy. Listen, Exodus 20:6, and Yahuwah shows mercies unto thousands of them that love him and keep his commandments. Listen, if you keep his commandments, and you have the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of his son in you, his spirit in you, he shows mercy. He gives unto you. You can ask and receive from him. He's going to give you what you need when you need it. He said, if you keep my commandments, if you keep my commandments, if you keep my commandments, it's up to you to keep the commandments. It's up to you to allow the words of Yahusha to cleanse you. It's up to you to continue to be renewed in the spirit of your mind and allow the Ruach HaKodesh to cause all things to come to your remembrance, to be able to produce fruit. 3,000 souls was added to the church, to the assemblies, not the church, but the assemblies. When he preached the Basora, abiding in the vine.
receiving the Ruach HaKodesh, keeping the commandments, allowing the Besorah and the Torah of truth to cleanse you, wash you, and allow Yahuwah to purge you. Ooh, whatever it takes, Yahuwah. Listen, whatever Yahuwah does for me to take me to the next level, wherever he needs me to go, in order that I might produce more fruit, I'm going to do it. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it. Period. I ain't fighting it. I ain't arguing over it. I'm not sweating it. Right? Accept it. Because he knows what's best. He knows what he's going to do for me. Listen. There's nothing that I have left that Yahuwah can't give me better for. Can't give me a better exchange to. Yahusha's rate of exchange is 30, 60, and 100-fold. 30, 60, and 100-fold. Yahusha's exchange rate. Okay. He says, if you abide in me, no, if you keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I kept the Father's commandments and abide in his love. So the Father loves me because I keep his commandments. The Father shows mercies unto thousands of them that love him and keep his commandments, right? He said, these things have I spoken unto you that my joy might remain in you, right? And that your joy might be full. These are words of comfort and encouragement. You know, I've told you that, I'm not going to leave you comfortless. Me and the Father, we're going to come to you in the Ruach HaKodesh, right? All you got to do is keep the commandments. All you got to do is continue in what you know. And listen, and our people understood that we needed to keep the commandments. That's why the Besorah, the original covenant, is a fulfillment of the Besorah. Right? It's nothing new. We as a people understood what Yahuwah required, obedience to Torah. It hasn't changed. The provisional sacrifice that purchased our Yeshua and that gave us the Ruach HaKodesh to all those who receive, right? Listen, that's the element that's puts us in the supernatural arena, right? Right? But we understood. Right? That's why when you read the epistles, right? Unless you're looking at the book of Hebrews that were written to Hebrew Christians, the book of James, I think James was written to Hebrews, the Besorah of YOCHANON, the epistles from YOCHANON, they were to Hebrews. And it was about what we already knew. We understood. Now Paul took it to a whole different level in his explanation, but it was what we knew, right? So we're sons of Eluah. Yahusha is of the seed of Dawid. He is Yahuwah's son. We are of the seed of Dawid. We are Yahuwah's sons. Right? We're not adopted. We are in it. We're not grafted. Some of us were grafted in because, we became wild olive branches. Our ancestors, man, they walked away from the Torah. Especially in the northern kingdom, they became wild olive branches. They needed to be grafted back in. Right? But listen, the epistles that Paul wrote were to the Gentiles, because it was the time of the Gentiles, right? And he taught them this Torah too. He just didn't say thou shalt not. He taught them that they had been chosen. Them too. You got Gentiles that have been chosen into Hamashiach.
who have received the spirit of adoption. We ain't adopted. We the seed. We ain't adopted. Come on. Listen, when you have an adopted child, the child is not biologically yours. Right? It's not biologically yours. If he's biologically yours, you don't need to adopt him. He's yours. Right? Even if the son is always going to be yours if he's biological. Right? But if he's not, then legally you can make him your son, but you'd have to adopt him. Right? And when you bring him into the family, the expectation is that he's going to abide by the same covenant, agreement, and rules that everybody else does. He's not going to be treated any different. Right? Adoption. Right? The New Testament to the Gentiles. The New Testament to the Gentiles. The renewed covenant. I know that's going to be hard for some people to swallow, but my desire is not to cause anyone to stumble. Yahuwah knows this. And when he gives me something to say, I say it, open my mouth and I say it. The things have I spoken unto you these things have I spoken unto you that my joy might remain in you. I'm sharing these things with you so that you can still have joy. Because I know that you're troubled, and there's going to be some troubling events coming that you ain't really anticipating. Right? They coming. That your joy may be full. Man of Yah, woman of Yah. We're going to stop there. We're going to pick up at John 15, the 12th chapter, on the morrow. But this is the Shabbat, not Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Father, Abba, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I pray by the Besorah, by the Ruach HaKodesh, and the Besorah of truth, I pray that they would receive the spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of you, that the eyes of their understanding would be enlightened, that they would know what is the hope of their calling and what the riches of the glory of the inheritance are in the saints, and what the exceeding greatness is of their power, your power to us who believe. Yahuwah, I thank you for your Ruach HaKodesh. I pray that they would receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, for with that comes the revelation and the truth of the Besorah. And I praise you. And let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. May I not cause anyone to stumble, to go astray, or to walk contrary to the Besorah of truth. I thank you for all that you do in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, that's all. It went down. Yeah, we the people of the book broadcast. Yes. Yes. It has gone down, right? And we gonna finish off with none other than John J. Tatum. I got some truth. Judgment is coming. Hallelujah. You better get the Ruach HaKodesh. Look at your covenant. Look. You better read it, know it, understand it. Better get the Ruach HaKodesh. Hallelujah. Again, John J. Tatum. I got some truth. Judgment is coming. I don't own the rights to this music. I don't own the rights to anything that's not mine in this video. Whatever it is, I don't own the rights to it. Hallelujah. With that, I say, man of Yah, call to greatness. Woman of Yah, call to greatness. Woman of Yahuwah, beautifully, wonderfully made. Today, Yahuwah has favored you. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom. Mercies and favor be yours.
Torah Guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.